Every morning, before the sun was fully up, Benjamin would walk the edges of his land and feel the same quiet shame. His soil was dying. Year after year, harvest after harvest, the yields kept dropping. He was doing everything right, planting on time, watering when he could, but the land just wouldn't give back what he put in. And then the rice millers started coming. Every single week, they'd back their truck up to the edge of his land and dump loads of rice husks. The leftover shells from the milling process that nobody wanted. A waste product. Worthless, they said, an eyesore. His neighbors laughed. Some complained. A few told him to chase the trucks away. But Benjamin didn't, because Benjamin had a plan. Benjamin Aquino is a smallholder farmer from a rural province in the Philippines. He farms about 2 hectares of land, modest by any standard. No tractor, no irrigation system, no big budget for commercial fertilizers. For years, Benjamin struggled with the same problem that plagues millions of smallholder farmers across Southeast Asia: soil degradation. Decades of intensive farming, chemical fertilizer overuse, and poor soil management had stripped the land of its natural nutrients. The topsoil had become compacted and lifeless, unable to hold water, unable to support healthy root systems. Benjamin spent years reading everything he could find about soil health, traditional techniques, modern research, ancient practices, and one word kept appearing over and over again in what he read: biochar. But where would a small farmer with no budget find biochar? He looked out his window and saw the answer piling up right beside his field. To understand why Benjamin's method works, you first need to understand the problem he was solving, and it's a problem that is far more widespread than most people realize. Modern farming, especially in rice-growing regions, has followed the same pattern for decades. Farmers apply synthetic nitrogen fertilizers to boost yields. Yields go up, farmers apply more, but over time something quietly breaks down. Synthetic fertilizers can feed the plant, but they don't feed the soil. In fact, over time, heavy chemical use kills the microorganisms living in the soil. These microbes, bacteria, fungi, tiny organisms you can't even see, are the real engine of soil fertility. Without them, the soil becomes essentially inert, a dead medium. Dead soil can't hold water properly. It becomes either waterlogged or bone-dry, depending on the season. It becomes hard and compacted, making it difficult for roots to penetrate deep. And without deep roots, crops become fragile, dependent entirely on whatever fertilizer the farmer applies, and increasingly expensive to grow. This is the trap millions of small farmers fall into, what agricultural scientists call the input treadmill. You keep spending more and getting less back. Benjamin knew he had to get off that treadmill. He just needed a way out. Rice husks are one of the most abundant agricultural waste products on the planet. For every kilogram of rice milled, about 200 grams of husks are produced. In rice-producing countries like the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, and India, that adds up to hundreds of millions of tons every single year. For most mills and farmers, rice husks are a headache. They're too tough for most animals to digest. They break down extremely slowly if just left on the ground. And open burning, the most common disposal method, releases carbon into the atmosphere and creates air pollution. But Benjamin had been reading about biochar, a form of charcoal made by burning organic material in a low-oxygen environment. And he'd read that when rice husks are converted into biochar, they become something extraordinary for the soil. The trucks kept coming, the husks kept piling up, and Benjamin got to work. What Benjamin developed over 2 years of experimentation is a 3-part system. It's simple enough to be done by any smallholder farmer with minimal equipment, and it works. Let's break it down. The first step is converting the raw rice husks into biochar. Benjamin uses a method called controlled pyrolysis, burning the husks slowly with limited oxygen so they char rather than burn completely to ash. The signs of a good burn: light-colored smoke, a slow process, and husks that turn black, not white. White means ash, which is less effective. Black biochar is what you want. Once cooled, the biochar is ready, and this is where things get interesting. Raw biochar is like an empty hotel. It has millions of tiny pores and channels, perfect structures for microorganisms and nutrients to live in. But it's empty, dry, inert. To activate it, Benjamin charges his biochar before adding it to the soil. He soaks the biochar in a mixture of compost tea, water that has been steeped with finished compost, and diluted animal manure. He lets it sit for 3 to 5 days. During this time, the microorganisms and nutrients from the compost tea are absorbed deep into the biochar's porous structure. The final step is application. Benjamin adds his charged biochar at a rate of about 2 to 3 tons per hectare in the first year, a significant initial application. In following years, he tops up with a maintenance dose of half to 1 ton per hectare. He also mixes it with compost, not synthetic fertilizer, to feed both the soil and the soil life simultaneously, and he uses some raw, uncharged husks as mulch on the surface to regulate soil temperature and reduce water evaporation. By the end of the first season, Benjamin saw results that shocked even him. His water retention improved dramatically. Where before he had to water every 2 days, he could now go 4 or 5 days between irrigation. The biochar was holding moisture in the soil like a sponge. His crop yields went up by nearly 40% compared to his previous best season, without increasing his use of fertilizer. In fact, he was using less fertilizer because the soil itself was now supplying more nutrients naturally. The quality of his produce improved too. Bigger, denser, longer shelf life. He started getting premium prices at the local market. Word spread fast. Within 18 months, farmers from neighboring villages were visiting Benjamin's field. Some drove hours to see it, and soon they were paying him to teach them his method. So what's actually happening in the soil? Why does this work so well? Rice husk biochar is exceptionally high in silicon, specifically amorphous silica, which makes it extremely stable in the soil. Unlike wood biochar, which can break down within decades, rice husk biochar can persist for centuries. Once you add it, it keeps working. Its highly porous structure creates millions of microhabitats for soil bacteria, fungi, and other organisms. These microbes are the foundation of the nutrient cycle. They break down organic matter, fix nitrogen from the air, and make minerals available to plant roots. Biochar gives them a safe, stable home to multiply. Biochar also dramatically improves water retention and drainage simultaneously, which sounds contradictory, but isn't. It holds water in dry conditions because of its absorption capacity, but also prevents waterlogging because its porous structure allows excess water to drain. It basically regulates the soil's water balance. And finally, biochar tends to slightly raise soil pH, making acidic, degraded soils more hospitable to a wider range of crops. Combined with the microbial boost and the improved structure, you get a compounding effect. The soil doesn't just recover, it keeps improving over time. Here's what you need to get started with this method on your own farm. Find your source of rice husks. Contact local rice mill sell. In most rice-growing regions, they'll give them away for free or nearly free. They're desperate to get rid of them. Build a simple kiln. You don't need expensive equipment. A metal cone kiln or a basic brick-and-mud pit works perfectly. Do a slow burn. Load your husks and burn low and slow over 2 to 3 hours. Aim for black biochar, not white ash. Charge your biochar. Soak it in compost tea or diluted manure water for 3 to 5 days before use. Apply to soil and mix it in. Start with a generous initial application in year 1. After that, a maintenance top-up each season is enough. Be patient. Your soil will not transform overnight, but within one full growing season, you will feel and see the difference, and it compounds from there. Benjamin didn't have money. He didn't have machines. He didn't have government support or agricultural loans. What he had was a pile of something everyone else threw away, and the wisdom to see its value. Today, Benjamin earns additional income teaching workshops. His land, which was degraded and declining just 4 years ago, is now one of the most productive plots in his district. And the trucks still come every week, still dumping what they consider waste. Benjamin still lets them. One farmer's trash, another farmer's transformation. If you found this story valuable, share it with a farmer who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about the people quietly revolutionizing how we grow food. And drop a comment below. Have you ever tried biochar or rice husk methods on your land? We'd love to hear your experience. Until next time, take care of your soil. It's taking care of you.